everybody! I'm Heidi.
And I'm Jen.
And today we're going to be reacting to some juicy relationship drama on Reddit.
Ooh.
So, let's get started. Oh boy. Am I the a-hole for telling my pregnant wife she should work less? So my 30 male wife, 30 female, is pregnant with our first child and is about 6 or so months along. A piece of information that is potentially relevant to our situation is that I make significantly more than my wife. My income makes up more than 85% of the household income, and we could very easily live off of just my paycheck. Okay. Now that being said, I have never asked or implied or wanted my wife not to work. I want her to work as much as she wants to work. If that's 0 hours a week, 20 hours, 40 hours, or 80 hours. If it makes her happy, that's what I want her to do.
80 hours?
I mean, at that point, it's getting unhealthy.
I don't think that'll make either of them very happy.
No.
They don't have no time for each other.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I appreciate how much you're supporting your wife in that, since she doesn't have to work, but you're not saying like, oh, you should work or you shouldn't work. It's nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright. As far as finances go, we have a joint account. All the money goes to, and once it hits that account, there is zero concept of her money or my money. It is the household's, and we both have equal access, control, and discretion with it. I say all of this to try and lay out that from a purely financial point of view, my wife is not forced to work. It's also relevant that there isn't any more progression in her job path. I'm not saying that in a negative way, it's just potentially relevant that she's not pushing for a promotion. Okay, because like, for instance, if you're pregnant, but like you're working somewhere that you've been working for a long time and you're working your way up the ladder, you don't want to quit necessarily, because especially if it's like a dream job or something, you would have to start back at the bottom. So I get that. But he's saying in her job, that's not the case. She's as high up as she could go, and I'm guessing based on this, that's not very high up.
Yeah.
When we were trying to get pregnant, she mentioned that she wanted to taper her hours as she got farther into the pregnancy, which sounded great. About 3 months into the pregnancy, she started getting really fatigued because she was growing a whole other person. That is what happens during pregnancy.
Fair enough.
She asked me if I could take over some of her half of the chores. Oh, they're those people. Half and half chores.
Split right down the middle. Everything.
I said of course, because again, she's growing a person. That's impressive. Of course I will take on more of the chores. At that point, I mentioned, hey, if you're getting tired and fatigued, maybe you could start tapering your work hours. That was a mistake. Since then, she's been doing extra shifts and staying late and doing extra hours.
Why?
Why, girl? Why would you do this to yourself? Honestly, I think it's like a mindset thing. He was like, you don't have the energy to work what you're working right now. And she's like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to work not only what I'm working right now, I'm going to work more.
Yeah, and she's getting further along in her pregnancy, so she's, well...
Second trimester, they say usually, is like the honeymoon phase, where you have more energy, you're not sick anymore, and you're not like super tired yet. But he also said currently she's about 6 months.
Okay.
So that's when you hit the 3rd trimester, and that's
the
when
baby's like getting heavier and everything.
Yes. And you're just tired all the time.
Yeah.
She's stressed and exhausted. Understandably. She comes home from work, wolfs down whatever dinner I make as she's walking to bed, and then falls asleep till it's time for her to leave again. Her time is 100% sleeping, working, or commuting between the two. That's just sad.
That is sad. That's sad for both of them. Because for her, I mean, she's just going to be so exhausted, and like for him, he barely will get to see her, and she won't get to see him, and yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you can't spend time together, that can put a pretty big strain on your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, it's already going to be, like, not exactly strained, but, like, challenged when the baby comes because they've got a third person to add into the mix, and it just changes everything.
Yeah.
So, honestly, girl, don't work so much. It's not good for you.
Well, we'll see what else they say, like what else he says. I wonder if there's more going on behind the scenes. Like, I don't know. I just wonder if maybe she feels somewhat insecure about that she's not. She feels like you were saying, kind of like she feels like she's not able to do as much or something, or that makes her weak, or maybe.
And, 1 second. I know one thing for me that, like, I'm not gonna like, but it's just gonna be part of getting married when I do, is being dependent on someone else. Like, in a way, it's great, but if you're a naturally independent-minded person.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if you're like a perfectionist too, then you might have high standards or goals set for yourself, and she already, like, she sees that he's achieving in his job. It sounds like he is probably more advanced in his career.
I mean, he says he makes 85% of their income, so.
Okay, so he is, but, yeah, so.
He also said he makes enough that she doesn't even have to work.
Yeah.
That being said, I can understand her wanting to work, not even just financially speaking, but just because, like, you don't want to be stuck at home all the time. But it is interesting that I honestly, you never get the whole story. Like, I wonder, he just says, I suggested to her that maybe she should start tapering her work hours.
What was her initial reaction? What did she say?
And how did he suggest that?
True. Yeah, that makes a difference.
Because I don't know if it was just her or if it was because of the way he suggested it, but clearly she went from that suggestion to, well, now I'm taking more hours.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't know, but it's, from what we've seen so far, he seems like a decent guy.
Yeah.
Not an a-hole. Anytime I ask if she wants to cut back on hours or if she needs a break, she gets really upset and goes off about proving she can work and not being told what to do.
There it is.
Yep. Yeah. I can relate. Not to the pregnancy part, but, like, when someone says, like, you can't do something, now you just really want to prove that you can do it. You have to prove them wrong.
Do you think that comes somewhat from, like, proving to yourself, too?
Oh, yeah.
That you can do it?
Absolutely. Finally, last week, I said, I don't think this is good for you, and you should really let yourself have a break. I'm not trying to be controlling, but I'm genuinely worried the physical and mental stress she's been putting herself under for not much additional gain. And I will admit, selfishly, I miss my wife. That's, I mean, in a way that's selfish, but, like, it's actually not only for your own benefit, but for hers and your relationship as a whole, if you have time together. Like,
yeah.
And it's for the benefit of your future child, too.
Yeah.
But, like, did he say that to her? What is he saying to her?
I don't know.
All he said, like, the only quote that he said is, I don't think this is good for you, and you should really let yourself have a break.
The thing is, like, I think, you know, it's important to give people room to grow and to explore new things. And, well, I mean, in this case, it's not really a new thing. She's just trying to work more at her job. But, like, to give your partner some space to do their own thing somewhat too. But at the same time, like, the relationship can suffer from that, and I think
and you know what
else?
else?
Trying to support her.
The way he's been saying it, And I'm not saying he's wrong, but is all saying, like, you should take a break for your health, for your benefit, or whatever. If he said, I would love for you to have more time off so we could spend time together.
That's true.
It would also be for her benefit, but if she can see that she's doing it for his benefit, so it's, because just doing it for herself, she's thinking, like, no, I don't need time off kind of thing. But if he says it in such a way, like, we need more time together, I think she might be more likely to respond positively.
Well, I think that opens the conversation up more, too, where she hopefully can let her defenses down a little bit and see that, oh, like you said, I can help him in this way. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about me getting help or me being weak or needing this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they both have different needs, and they both have different roles. And neither, like, that's fine. That's good. Neither one is more important. It's just different.
Yeah. And I will admit, selfishly, I miss my wife. I haven't had a meal or conversation longer than 6 minutes with her in months.
That's so sad.
Yes, that is.
6 minutes? Okay. I talk with my boyfriend on the phone for like hours every night. I can't imagine that. That's actually so sad.
That is incredibly sad. Oh. Because, like, if you're living with someone, you would think they would be used to, prior to this, having lots of time together.
And relationships are all different, but I feel like the tension would keep rising, too, if she's trying to, like, prove something to him, and maybe she's, like, annoyed or feels hurt in that way. And then he feels sad because he can't, well, I mean, like, she could help him by taking less hours and being there for him, but he wants to be there for her and help her too, and she's not really letting him do that.
Yeah.
So they both need to just communicate.
Yes. Number 1 in relationships.
I feel like
communicate.
That's usually what it is. The main thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Especially on the
but even just in general, miscommunication tends to be the biggest thing that causes, like, problems in relationships.
Yeah, and sometimes that's because someone's hurt, or, like, it could be from something in the past, or maybe it's happening now, and they just don't want to open up about it.
And sometimes you don't even realize that you're not communicating.
That's true.
It does take a third person to look at it and be like, well, did you tell them this?
Yeah, sometimes it does. Or sometimes you don't even know what to say, or you don't understand how you're feeling right away. I've had that where sometimes for days I'll just be like trying to process my own thoughts, and I can't get it out into words properly.
Yeah. Okay. This is just a little bit more. Hasn't had longer than 6-minute conversations in months. I hear she's trying to prove she can, but it's hard to see her run herself into the ground if there's not a real need to. Am I the a-hole for telling her it's time to take a break? Well, first of all, it doesn't sound like even she thinks you are. She's just saying, like, no, I don't want to, but maybe she's annoyed that you're trying to.
She's trying to prove it to him, though.
Yeah. Okay. Let's read some comments.
I think, right before that.
Okay.
I think the thing is, too, even if he says, like, no, I believe you can do it and stuff, that's not necessarily going to help.
No.
Because she might think, like, he's just saying that.
Yeah. Or even, like, yeah, fine, you believe it, but I need to prove it to myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, and this would be the most toxic, I need to prove it to other people. People who really you shouldn't care about proving anything to.
I think that's where, like, a shift would have to be made, like a mental shift of, well, she has to change her mindset about how important that is in, like, the job itself, and maybe she doesn't want to do that, but if she can't do that, then she's gonna keep thinking that that's super important, and then it'll just keep being a problem.
Yeah. Talk to your wife. Like, don't just say, oh, don't work, it's too stressful for you, you need a break. Actually have, like, although during the 6 minutes, can you really have a conversation?
Well, I think that's where, you know, their relationship could be tested a little bit. Because if he comes to her and says, like, I feel like I need to talk to you. Something needs to change here, or we need to at least talk through how we're feeling, because, and like telling that he's, like, he just needs to talk, like, because things aren't really okay between them. Because clearly he is upset by this, that he can't spend more time with his wife, and so whether she's upset that she can't spend more time with him or not, they need to figure that out and be on the same page.
And also, like, if you brought it up in such a way, like, I need you here. Not even just emotionally, but you could say stuff like, because if you're working full time and you're taking on her half of the chores, like, who and where is, like, the baby stuff coming from? Who's buying this? Who's planning out a nursery and all this sort of thing? Like, is it just her mom or something? Like,
that's true. Well, I think, again, too, I know, like, for me and my boyfriend, this came from playing a video game together, but we like to say we're Team Red. We're on the same team. And so we try to come at things in that way. Like, both of us might be upset, or one of us is upset, but at the end of the day, we're on the same team, so we're trying to work it out together and not, like, against each other.
Yeah, you know? Which is definitely good. Now we're going to read some comments. Not the a-hole for being a genuinely concerned husband and father to be. She needs validation. This person, I think, probably hits it, but we'll keep reading. You guys had a rational discussion at the onset about her tapering off her work schedule. That sounds like a great plan. Then the hormones hit. She started feeling tired, overwhelmed, less able, in need of more help. And you suggested she cut back. That makes sense, right? You love her. You want her happy and comfortable. And the hormone screamed, "What did he just say? Did he call us incapable? We don't listen to no man."
Yeah, because it does sound a little bit like teenage hormones type of thing.
Which,
but maybe it's similar with pregnancy a little bit.
It can be, from what I've heard. I mean, everyone's different, and even from pregnancy to pregnancy, it can be different. But you will have raging hormones. Some people just get really weepy.
That's probably me. Well, maybe mad too. I can get moody.
I feel like some people get really happy. I hope that's the case. But yeah. And then they continue, they say, now these guys are pretty powerful, talking about hormones. They have control over almost every aspect of her behavior. Every time you suggest cutting back, she needs to prove that she's not incapable. Tell her how much you love how strong and capable she is. She's been amazing through all this. Ask if there's anything more you can do. When she lets her guard down, suggest that picking up extra shifts is more than she needs to do, even though you know she can. Move forward from there.
I really like the point that person made about it being more than she needs to do.
Yes, absolutely.
So that it's still, like they said, like validating or making her feel like she is doing a lot. Because she is. She's already pregnant, carrying a baby, and she was working, and she can still work a little bit.
Yeah. Someone else said maybe it's hormones, but there could be all sorts of other valid explanations. How is hormones not a valid explanation? Just because they make you a little crazy. Like, you are actually feeling these ways.
Are they saying, though, like, other valid explanations or other valid explanations?
Oh, like, are they saying that other ones are valid or other ones that are also valid?
Yeah.
Hopefully you're right on that one. Anyway, they said maybe she likes her job and wants to achieve something specific before maternity leave. Maybe she's worried that once she goes on maternity leave, OP will pressure her not to go back. I mean, obviously, possible. It doesn't seem like that's the case. Maybe it's important to her not to give up her career for whatever reason. Maybe she wants to maintain the independence of having her own income source and not being entirely dependent on OP for money, which if that were the case, I would understand. I feel like it will be, because at a certain point, especially if I want to homeschool, it will be very difficult to depend on just someone else for the income.
Yeah, I feel like we both have like fairly independent personalities.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Growing up in a family of 9 kids.
You kind of have to be somewhat.
Does that to you?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then they also said OP should talk to her instead of making assumptions. To which OP replied, "For someone talking about not making assumptions, you sure did pull a lot of assumptions about my marriage out of thin air." Which is true. They did. But
yeah. Their assumptions aside, I do think it's... Because for me, I tend to make too many assumptions sometimes. A lot of the time, actually. I make a lot of assumptions, and some of them are completely right, and some of them are, like, totally wrong. So, to really clarify things, I think is important.
Absolutely.
We should do one quick one.
This one should be quick. It's so shallow.
Yeah.
Am I the a-hole for asking my boyfriend to separate the teaspoons from the tablespoons when emptying the dishwasher?
That would kind of be me, though.
Yeah, because they're different. They're not the same.
When putting away cutlery, not even just size. Like, if it's a different pattern, I want it separate.
Okay, but we have 2 different sets and drawers and whatever.
That's true. Everything has its place.
Yes. When you actually get your own place, you'll probably just have 1 cutlery set, so then that won't be an issue.
Yes.
But yeah, size...
I mean, it doesn't bother... Like, if I see it, I'll change it, probably. It doesn't... Like, I'm not gonna get upset at someone else, really, for doing it, but, yeah, I'm picky.
But, like, with size, it matters, because, like, they're
size
different...
matters.
They're different spoons! And sometimes, like, if I'm eating a yogurt or something, I want a teaspoon.
Yeah.
And so if they're all, like, smushed in between the tablespoons, like, that's annoying.
For me, it's more about just...
Plus, if you see those cutlery racks, there's a spot for tablespoons, and there's a spot for teaspoons.
Yeah.
Anyway, rant over. My boyfriend, 27, and I, 25, moved in together 3 months ago, and we're still trying to compromise on how things should be done around the house. I usually do the cooking because I come home before he does. I've had to beg him to help clean up the kitchen when we are done eating. Well, that's not a good sign.
No.
It just makes sense to me that if one person is cooking a meal for both of us to eat, then the other person should clean up. Now, yes, but with one caveat. Which is, like, for instance, when I get married, if we're both working, initially that would be the case. But if, like, on a day, he comes home and he has to work on, like, one of our vehicles or something, or he's working an extra long shift, I'm gonna clean up.
Or even, like, it doesn't have to be a perfect split.
Exactly.
Like, sometimes, I've heard this saying before, like, sometimes... when you can't both give 50% or, like, you can't both give 100% or whatever you want to say, then one person will give, like, 80 and one will give 20, because some days one person just has a bad day, a tiring day, they're sick, maybe.
There was a couple that I saw on a short, and they were saying, some days it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Some days one can only give 20 and the other has to give 80.
Yeah.
And sometimes they both are like, I can only give 20. And in that situation, you need to sit down and talk and figure things out. And maybe that means some things like dishes won't get done that day.
Yeah.
But either way, to think that it's always going to be 50-50...
it's unrealistic, yeah.
And honestly, a little bit childish.
Yeah. I think, in general, you should both be putting in equal effort. Yeah. But that's not what's going to happen.
To say that that's a hard and fast rule is...
yeah, I think that's also just working on being flexible.
Yeah.
It's important.
Which can also be difficult. But okay.
Yes.
I had to beg him to help clean up the kitchen when we were done eating, right? It just makes sense to me that if one person is cooking a meal for both of us to eat, then the other person should clean up. I've noticed that when he is emptying the dishwasher, he mixes up the utensils. We have a drawer organizer. Nice. And there's a section for all the utensils. Butter knives go with butter knives. Teaspoons are sorted with teaspoons. Forks with forks. And tablespoons with tablespoons. He puts the big spoons with little spoons. And the big forks with the little forks. Yeah, but we have 2 of those things. And there's not a spot for different forks. There's 2 spoon spots. But there's only 1 fork spot.
She's talking about in the dishwasher right now, right?
No. She said we have a drawer organizer.
Oh, okay.
You can't separate the forks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but she doesn't really care about that. Why mention it then? Anyway, I asked him if he could separate the teaspoons and tablespoons when putting away the utensils. He responded with, "No, I literally don't care. I'm not wasting energy and brain power on separating spoons."
I don't love that response.
I hate that response.
Because, okay, the thing is, does it really matter? It doesn't matter that much. But the thing is, she just asked him.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, he can, you know, he doesn't have to do it. But he can do it to be nice. And that's something that she cares about enough to ask him about it.
And it also depends on, like, how she asked him. Or, like,
Yeah,
did she tell him?
That's true, again, because, like, at
One-sided story.
At the beginning, clearly she's kind of annoyed with him. Because he's not helping clean up.
Like, was she saying, you have to separate the spoons? Or did she say, like, hey, sweetheart, could you separate the little spoons from the big spoons, please?
It's a little different.
It makes a difference.
It does make a big difference.
It really does.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of people, like, people think of this with teenagers, but people just in general, when you are told to do something that you already don't want to do, it just makes you want to do it less.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still that way.
Yeah, I absolutely am still that way.
You can, like, that's the natural reaction, I feel like. And some people have it stronger than other people, but you have to work against that.
Yeah, definitely. Now I have to go behind him and fix the utensil drawer after he puts away utensils. I want to know if I am being dramatic. There's space for each utensil category in the drawer organizer. It just makes sense to me to put all the same utensils in the same spot, instead of mixing them. It's not the end of the world if the utensils are mixed together, but at the same time, I feel like if you're going to do something, then just do it the right way from the beginning. Now I have to clean up after him after he's already cleaned up. Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with this girl, but again, you don't know how she went about things because you only ever get one side of the story.
Yeah.
But sort your cover. Okay. How much do you want to bet the comments are going to tell them to break up?
Over the spoons. Pick up your spoons and walk.
I have no idea, but it's just they say that to everyone. He doesn't want to waste his energy and brain power. My, there must be quite a shortage of it. So careful in choosing when to dole it out. This simple, polite act requires near zero effort and near zero intelligence. Why are you with this guy?
There it is.
What happens when you ask him to do something that actually requires effort or critical thinking skills, not the a-hole?
That's funny. I mean, they're kind of right, but it really just depends on how he is the rest of the time.
Yeah. Here we go. You're hoisting those red flags up the mast yourself right here. I hope you realize that. Any man who is bested by utensils and acts like a simple request to not live like a disorganized barn animal requires a second look regarding boyfriend material. You're allowed to want someone more competent who won't let the tiniest thing kick his ass and cause you a problem. Upgrade. Every time. Every time. Over the spoons. Can you imagine getting dumped over spoons?
The thing is, yeah, I know. This, ridiculous. But the thing is it a bigger issue?
Yes. Is
That's
it a
the question.
symptom of a deeper
But
problem?
my thought is it's probably not to that much of a degree, because why is she
Posting
this
about
on
this?
Reddit?
Exactly.
So if that's her issue,
like
that's not horrible.
It's probably a symptom of a deeper issue.
Yeah.
But I feel like it doesn't bleed out into the rest of their lives, or else she would be posting about something much more significant.
Yeah, I think it is the response, though, that's somewhat more bothersome.
Yes.
In this case.
Definitely.
Because it wasn't like he was just like, oh, whatever even, or like, oh yeah, I'll try and make an effort. He's like, no.
And I think that comes from his resentment because she basically said she had to make him do the dishes. So if that's the case, then there might be a deeper issue where, like, maybe he feels like that's not his job. Like, she has to do the dishes, in which case...
Too, maybe he feels a bit like she doesn't think what he's doing is good enough, and he could be trying more for sure, but she does come back and fix it, quote unquote fix it after. And I know, like, for me, that would be frustrating if I did something. And I mean, she explained why she would do that. She'd asked him to do it differently, but...
Yeah. I mean, if I'm doing something, and I think the way I'm doing it is fine, and then someone comes and fixes it after, I'm just gonna, like, roll my eyes and be, like, a little bit annoyed.
I would say she's definitely not the a-hole for asking him.
No, absolutely not.
To separate them, though.
Or even for wanting them separated. And I do agree, like, what kind of Neanderthal doesn't separate their spoons?
Yeah. So, that one then, we both agree.
Not the a-hole.
Not the a-hole.
In every situation, make sure you talk to your partner.
Yeah.
Communication is so important.
And we want to hear what you guys think in the comments, too, so...
Absolutely.
Comment down below your thoughts.
If you think
conversations are fun.
Our opinions were just off the money completely, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any ones that you think we should react to, also let us know, because we will take suggestions.
Yeah, it was fun.
Anyway, we'll see you next time. Bye!